You're scrolling through Instagram at 11 p.m. and your college roommate just posted pictures from their second vacation this year. This time it's the Maldives. You're showing off their brand new Tesla. Your sister just bought a house with granite countertops and one of those fancy coffee bars in the kitchen. And you're sitting there eating homemade pasta for the fourth time this week, driving a 2012 Civic, and looking at a spreadsheet that shows you're on track to have $847,000 in your retirement accounts by the time you're 50. But here's the thing, nobody sees that spreadsheet. Nobody's liking and commenting on your Vanguard index fund balance. And sometimes, late at night, you wonder if you're the crazy one. My name is Elon Musk, and I spend way too much time thinking about why financially disciplined people feel so alone in their decisions. If you're someone who's been making smart money moves but feeling increasingly isolated from friends, family, and the entire consumer culture around you, make sure to hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up if this helps you out. Because today we're going to talk about something that nobody in the personal finance space really addresses head-on: the profound, uncomfortable loneliness that comes with financial discipline in a world that's absolutely screaming at you to spend. Look, here's what most people don't realize about building wealth. The math is actually the easy part. Spend less than you earn, invest the difference in low-cost index funds, wait 30 years. Done. A literal 12-year-old could understand the mechanics. The hard part, the really hard part, it's watching everyone around you live completely different lives while you stay disciplined. A 2023 study from the American Psychological Association found that 68% of people who identified as aggressive savers reported feeling socially isolated from their peer group. 68%. That's more than 2 out of every 3 people who are doing the financially responsible thing feeling like outsiders in their own social circles. And here's where it gets really interesting. The isolation actually increases as your net worth grows. You'd think it would be the opposite, right? That as you become more financially secure, you'd feel more confident, more connected. But a study from Boston College's Center on Wealth and Philanthropy found that individuals in the wealth accumulation phase reported higher levels of social anxiety and relationship strain than those who were either not saving or who had already achieved financial independence. Think about what that means. The people who are in the trenches, who are actually doing the daily work of building wealth, feel more isolated than those who already made it. Let me show you why this happens with some actual numbers, because the math here is both beautiful and kind of heartbreaking. Let's say you're 28 years old making $65,000 a year. You decide to get serious about your finances. You're going to save 25% of your gross income. That's $16,250 per year, or about $1,354 per month. That's totally doable, right? People do it all the time. But here's what it actually means in terms of your daily life. Your friends want to do a weekend trip to Miami. Flight, hotel, food, drinks, maybe $800 total. That's 60% of your monthly savings goal gone in one weekend, so you say no. Someone's getting married in Napa Valley, destination wedding. By the time you factor in the flight, the hotel, the wedding gift, the rehearsal dinner, you're looking at $1,500 to $2,000. That's more than an entire month of savings. So you send a nice card and skip it. You go out for lunch every day. That's $15 a day, $75 a week, $300 a month. You bring a turkey sandwich from home. Now you might be thinking, okay, but those are just small sacrifices. That's what discipline looks like. And you're absolutely right. But here's the thing. Every single one of those decisions is a micro-rejection of the social world around you. Every no, I can't make it, is a tiny thread being cut between you and the people in your life. And the real kicker, let's do the math on what you're actually gaining by making those sacrifices. That $16,250 you're saving every year, invested in a broad market index fund returning an average of 10% annually, will grow to approximately $2.89 million over 35 years. If you factor in annual raises of just 3%, and you keep saving that same 25% of your increasing income, you're looking at closer to $4.1 million. So yes, the math absolutely works. The math is screaming at you that you're making the right decision. But the math doesn't text you on Saturday nights. The math doesn't feel hurt when you can't make it to dinner. The math doesn't post photos that make you question whether you're living your life wrong. Here's what most people don't understand about financial discipline. It's not actually about denying yourself pleasure. It's about having a different relationship with time than the people around you. When you're financially disciplined, you're essentially living in the future. You're making decisions today based on a version of yourself that doesn't exist yet, the 55-year-old you or the 65-year-old you. You're having a relationship with future you, and that relationship is more important to you than the immediate social bonds of right now. But everybody else, they're living in the present, and they're not wrong to do that, by the way. There's something deeply human about valuing the moment you're in, about spending time and money on experiences with the people you love right now. A researcher named Dr. Hall at UCLA did this fascinating study where he used fMRI brain scans to look at how people think about their future selves. And what he found is that when most people think about themselves in the future, their brain activity looks almost identical to when they think about a complete stranger. Think about that. For most people, their future self is literally a different person at the neurological level. So when they're choosing between going on a trip with friends today and saving money for retirement, they're not choosing between now me and future me. They're choosing between me and some random person I'll never meet. But if you're watching this video, you're probably wired differently. You can see future you clearly. You can imagine that person, care about that person, make sacrifices for that person, and that's an incredible gift. It's also incredibly isolating. Look, I want to get really specific about what this actually looks like, because I think a lot of financially disciplined people feel like they're being crazy or antisocial, when really they're just operating on a different timeline than everyone around them. Let's say you have a group of friends from college. You're all around 32 years old. Here's what different financial timelines look like in practice. Friend A is living paycheck to paycheck, has $30,000 in student loans, $8,000 in credit card debt. They can always make it to happy hour because they're already in debt. What's another $40 on the credit card? Their timeline is measured in weeks. They're thinking about making it to the next paycheck. Friend B is doing okay. They're saving a little, maybe 5% in their 401k to get the company match. They have a small emergency fund. They can afford some trips and nice dinners, but they're stressed about money most of the time. Their timeline is measured in months. They're thinking about making rent, paying bills, maybe saving for a vacation. Friend C, that's you, saving 25% or more. You have 6 months of expenses saved. You're maxing out your IRA. You're on track to be financially independent by your mid-50s. Your timeline is measured in decades. Now here's the brutal reality. It's almost impossible for these three people to socialize in a way that feels comfortable for everyone. When friend A suggests dinner at a nice restaurant, friend C is doing the math. That's $85 with tax and tip. That's $85 that could be worth $627 in 30 years if I invested it instead. And suddenly you're not even at dinner anymore. You're living in 3 decades from now. Friend B can sometimes keep up, sometimes can't, and is stressed either way. And friend A is just trying to have a nice time with friends and can't understand why everyone is being so weird about money. None of these people are wrong, but they can't really be close to each other, not in the way they used to be, because they're literally living in different time periods. This is where it gets really interesting and honestly kind of dark. There's this concept in behavioral economics called reference point dependency. Basically, your happiness isn't determined by your absolute wealth or financial position. It's determined by how your situation compares to your reference point, the people you see as similar to yourself. A study from the National Bureau of Economic Research found that people would rather earn $50,000 in a world where the average is $25,000 than earn $100,000 in a world where the average is $200,000. Read that again. People would literally prefer to have less money if it meant being relatively wealthier than those around them. And social media has taken this psychological quirk and weaponized it. You're not just comparing yourself to the people you see in your daily life anymore. You're comparing yourself to a curated highlight reel of hundreds of people's best moments. That college roommate in the Maldives, you don't see the $18,000 in credit card debt she's carrying. You don't see her crying at 2 a.m. about money stress. You just see the infinity pool and the overwater bungalow. You're with the Tesla, you don't see the 7-year loan at 6.5% interest. You don't see that he's got $3,000 in his savings account and a monthly payment that's 35% of his take-home income. You just see the car. And here's the thing, even when you know this intellectually, even when you understand that you're being manipulated by social media algorithms and targeted advertising and consumer culture, it still hurts. Your rational brain knows you're making the right decisions, but your emotional brain feels like you're losing at life. A 2024 study from the Journal of Consumer Psychology found that financially disciplined individuals showed markers of what they called delayed gratification grief, a genuine mourning process for experiences not had and pleasures not taken, even when they cognitively agreed with their financial decisions. You're literally grieving for the life you're not living, even though you wouldn't actually want to live that life. Let me tell you about the moments when financial discipline feels the most lonely, because I think this is where people really struggle and sometimes give up entirely. It's not the big, dramatic sacrifices. It's not saying no to buying a yacht or a mansion. Those are easy, because they're so far outside normal life that they don't even register as real options. It's the small, meaningful moments. It's being the only person in your friend group who can't go to the concert because you're not willing to spend $200 on tickets. It's having your family make comments at Thanksgiving about how you never do anything fun because you drove 8 hours instead of flying to save $300. It's watching your friends buy houses with granite countertops and open floor plans while you're still renting or bought a modest starter home, even though you could technically afford the nicer place. It's being in your mid-30s and still driving a reliable but deeply unsexy sedan, while everyone else has upgraded to luxury SUVs. It's having your parents, who never saved for retirement and are now financially stressed, lecture you about living a little and not taking life so seriously. Here's a specific example that I think really captures this. Let's say your close friend is getting married and she asks you to be in the wedding party. You're honored, you love her, you want to celebrate this moment. But being in the wedding party means $200 for the bridesmaid dress, $150 for alterations, $300 for the bachelorette party weekend, $150 for hair and makeup the day of, $100 for the bridal shower contribution, $150 for a wedding gift. Maybe $400 for travel if it's not local. You're looking at $1,450 minimum, probably closer to $1,800 with all the hidden costs. That's 13.3% of your annual savings goal gone for one wedding. Now maybe you can swing it this one time, but what if you have 3 weddings that year? What if your brother is also getting married? What if there's a baby shower and a milestone birthday and a bachelor party in Vegas? Suddenly you're choosing between being part of the important moments in the lives of people you love and staying on track toward your financial goals. And no matter what you choose, something gets damaged. Either your relationships suffer or your financial progress suffers, or most likely, you suffer because you're constantly stressed and guilt-ridden no matter what you decide. Look, here's the truth that I think the personal finance community does a terrible job addressing. Financial discipline will cost you relationships. Not because you're doing anything wrong, but because you're operating on a fundamentally different wavelength than most of the people around you. Some friendships will fade. Some family members will think you're being ridiculous or cheap or no fun. Some romantic relationships won't survive the tension between different money values. And the really hard part, a lot of times the other person isn't wrong. They're not being irresponsible or foolish. They've just made a different calculation about how to balance present joy and future security. They've decided that experiences now are worth more than security later, and for them in their life with their values, that might actually be the right choice. A longitudinal study tracked people's financial decisions over 20 years and found that people in the highest savings quartile reported 23% fewer close friendships by year 10 and attended 41% fewer social gatherings than their peers. But they also reported significantly higher levels of life satisfaction by year 15 and dramatically lower levels of financial stress throughout the entire period. So yes, the financial discipline works. Yes, you end up better off. But there's a transitional period, we're talking potentially a decade or more, where you feel like you're on the outside looking in at everyone else's life. Now you might be thinking, okay, this is incredibly depressing. Is there any good news here? Is there a way to be financially disciplined without feeling completely alone? And the answer is yes, but it requires a fundamental psychological shift that most people never make. Here's the shift. You have to stop viewing financial discipline as sacrifice and start viewing it as buying something different. Stay with me here because this is important. Right now, you probably think about your financial choices in terms of what you're giving up. You're not going on the trip. You're not buying the new car. You're not getting the nice apartment. You're sacrificing, you're delaying, you're denying yourself. But that's the wrong frame entirely. What you're actually doing is purchasing something. You're purchasing optionality. You're purchasing freedom. You're purchasing the ability to say no to things you don't want to do. You're purchasing time, actual literal years of your life that you won't have to spend working. Let me make this concrete with real numbers. Let's say you save that $16,250 per year from age 28 to 58, 30 years. With average market returns, you end up with approximately $2.89 million. If you follow the 4% rule, that's $115,600 per year in retirement income without touching the principal. But here's what that actually means. At age 58, you can walk away from your job. Maybe you keep working because you want to, but you don't have to. You've purchased the ability to tell your boss exactly what you think of their terrible ideas. You've purchased the ability to spend your Tuesday mornings sitting in a coffee shop reading a book instead of in a meeting about meetings. Now your friend who went on all those trips, who drove the nice car, who had the fancy apartment, they're 58 years old with $180,000 in their 401k. They need to work until they're 70. Minimum, maybe longer. They don't have the option to stop. So who actually sacrificed more? Your friend sacrificed 15 years of freedom, for 30 years of slightly nicer consumer experiences. You sacrificed 30 years of slightly nicer consumer experiences for 15 plus years of complete freedom. Neither choice is objectively wrong, but they're very, very different purchases. Here's what I wish someone had told me earlier. The loneliness gets better, but not because the world around you changes. It gets better because you find your people. There are other people out there who think the way you do, who value the same things, who are on the same timeline. And when you find them, the relief is profound. These people aren't necessarily in your current social circle. They're probably not your college friends or even your family. You have to go find them intentionally. They're in online communities focused on financial independence. They're in local meetup groups about early retirement or investing. They're the person at the party who lights up when you mention index fund expense ratios instead of looking at you like you've grown a second head. And here's what's amazing: when you find these people, suddenly all those sacrifices don't feel like sacrifices anymore. They feel like intelligent decisions that are celebrated and understood. You can talk about your net worth milestone without seeming like you're bragging. You can express anxiety about whether to increase your savings rate from 35% to 40% and have people engage with that as a serious question rather than looking at you like you're insane. A 2023 study from the Journal of Financial Therapy found that individuals who participated in financial peer groups showed 64% lower rates of savings fatigue and were 3.2 times more likely to maintain their savings rate over a 5-year period compared to isolated savers. Community matters, finding your people matters, and it might be the difference between maintaining your financial discipline and giving up 3 years in because the loneliness becomes unbearable. Okay, so let's make this actionable. If you're feeling that quiet loneliness of financial discipline right now, here's what you can actually do about it. First, acknowledge that what you're feeling is real and valid. You're not being dramatic. The isolation is a genuine cost of the path you've chosen, and pretending it doesn't exist just makes it worse. Second, actively seek out community. Join online forums like Financial Independence Community or local Choose FI groups. Find people who are on the same journey and can validate your experience. Third, be honest with your existing friends and family about your financial goals without being preachy or judgmental. You don't need to convert them. You just need them to understand that when you say no to things, it's not because you don't love them or don't want to spend time with them. It's because you're building something specific with your life. Fourth, create low-cost or free ways to maintain your important relationships. Suggest hiking instead of expensive brunches. Host potluck dinners instead of going out. Have game nights at home. The people who truly care about you will adapt. Fifth, remind yourself regularly what you're buying with your discipline. Keep a spreadsheet or an app that shows you your progress. Visualize what your life will look like when you hit your financial goals. Make the future feel as real as the present. And finally, give yourself permission to occasionally spend on the things that truly matter to you. Financial discipline doesn't mean never spending money on experiences or relationships. It means being intentional about which ones are worth it. If your best friend's wedding matters enough to blow 13% of your annual savings goal, then do it and don't feel guilty about it. Perfect discipline that makes you miserable is not actually discipline. It's just a different kind of life mistake. Look, I'm not going to lie to you and say that choosing financial discipline in a consumer culture is easy. It's not. It's really, really hard. And there will be nights when you wonder if you're doing the right thing. There will be moments when you feel like you're missing out on life while everyone around you is actually living. But here's what I believe: the quiet loneliness of financial discipline is temporary. The regret of financial chaos is permanent. The friend in the Maldives will eventually have to come home and face her credit card statement. The with the Tesla will eventually realize that a car payment is just another chain tying him to a job he might hate. Your sister with the gorgeous kitchen will eventually understand what it feels like to be trapped by a mortgage you can't afford to walk away from. But you're building something different. You're building options. You're building freedom. You're building the ability to design your life instead of just reacting to it. And yeah, right now that might feel lonely. But 10 years from now, 15 years from now, 20 years from now, when you're living on your own terms while everyone else is still trapped in the system, you won't feel lonely at all. You'll feel free. Thanks for watching. If this resonated with you, hit that subscribe button and let me know in the comments what your experience has been with the loneliness of financial discipline. I read every single comment, and I'd love to hear your story. Now go out there and keep making those smart decisions, even when they're hard. Future you is counting on you. And future you is going to be so grateful.